What's up, y'all? Today I want to show you how to make those little hyperpop sine wave keys that I've heard a lot of different producers use in their tracks. This is a 3 OSC sound. There's no post-processing, and I'm going to talk a little bit about how I got the composition for it. So with that being said, let me go ahead and play the example I have here. So kind of just those like sweet, cute sounding keys that a good different many producers use. And you can also pitch it down an octave and get more of like a mellow. Right, kind of just a different tone depending on where you have it in the transposition or whatever of it. So let me just start here talking about the two different ways that I'll write melodies. So the first way is drag in a sample from a sample pack, like somebody's melodic sample or a drum loop sample, but melodic samples tend to work better for me. Drag one into the playlist and then stretch it or whatever to get in the proper length for your BPM. And then just write a melody based off of what you're hearing. And I typically just, not code them, but I write with the mouse. I don't know how to play the keyboard. So I'll just pick notes out that work with that sample. So then it's in the same key as the sample, so you kind of have an idea of what other samples you can use in the track and stuff like that. The other thing that I'll typically do, or that I recommend doing, I used this a lot when I first started producing, but now I typically don't. But it was really helpful when I didn't kind of have tricks that I knew as far as like melody writing. Is just go into your stamp tool here, pick out a key, and so for this one I used a natural Aeolian minor key. Stretch it to like 4 bars or 8 bars, and then copy it, paste it, and I'll do like 4 of these, 5 of these. So then I have this. Now when I go into my 3 OSC here, if I hit Alt V, I have the ghost notes up there, and you can also turn it on by going into View here. Turn ghost channels on, or editable ghosts I also like to use, because then if I'm writing 2 different melodies, I can move notes around in the different melodies. So then from there you kind of have the key to work off of. And then the second thing that I'll say is I tend to write a more simple version of the melody and then turn it into a more complicated version. So like for this one, the first version of the melody was just these lower green keys. And as you can kind of hear there, what we have is two separate 2-bar sections with a little bit of alteration on the end. So they both start with the same couple notes kind of ascending and going up in the key. And then one ends with this A here. I'm sorry, is it the A? Yeah, so one ends with A going into these couple notes and then D, and the other one goes from B to C. So if you kind of listen to the second half of these. That versus that, while the first halves are the same. So I just kind of wrote the first piece, copied, pasted, and then changed a couple of the pieces here. So then once that's done, you can go in and add just different top melodies to it. So here I've just kind of went in, and I'm not going to unmute these all and play it. I think you kind of should get the idea there. So then you end up with something like this. And I did the exact same thing with the top notes on this, where I copied the first half, pasted it in the second half, and then just made some alterations as far as the notes go. One other thing I'll say is, for this particular sound design thing that I have here, you don't want the notes to run into each other. So instead of having each of these notes, I think it's actually easiest to show if I pull this out. You don't want the notes to run into each other. You want there to be space in between. You want them to kind of be relatively short, to where if you're playing them in a, bass 3 OSC, that's the initialized patch. As you can hear, there's space in between them. And so now I'll talk about the sound design, and the reason for that space. Let me just kind of live design one of these, and then I'll compare it to what I ended up with here. So as far as in the 3 OSC window, you don't have to change anything. It's literally just the initialized sine wave for this. Then hit your little cog wheel here, and then go into the plugin VST wrapper settings. And then first thing you do is set up your volume envelope. So for this, I typically just do this to taste. So I'll play the way that I'll do patches like this is I'll play the melody that I have, and then just kind of go in here and change the settings until I'm kind of getting what I want to hear. And I know for this particular patch, the thing that I think works the best is kind of really short. We want to do a long tail. Okay, so that kind of works. Now the next thing that I have to do here is go into my filter. And as you can hear, this one's really bright and piercing. So I'm going to go in here and turn a fast low pass down on it. And just while I play it. And so as you can hear, I'm like kind of messing with the release to extend it out, almost to act like a bit of maybe not a reverb or delay, but just like to give it some space. The longer releases help to have it, give it that like drippy, bleeding into each other sound. Whereas that does not sound like that. They both have a good, use case, but for this, that's just, what kind of sounded like it was working for me. And then this sound also has no post effects on it. So everything else that I've done in here is just done with so I have one thing is a pitch envelope here. So if you turn the amount up on the pitch, it kind of wrecks most sounds. So the first thing that I'll say is don't ever turn this more than like a couple percent, for me at least. And then just kind of go in here and change the speed. And so again, I went into my pitch tab here, and then I'll just give an attack to it. So. And so what that means on this envelope here is there's going to be a pitch adjustment that happens after the attack kicks in. And I've not turned my global retrigger on or my tempo sync on, so it's kind of just going at like an arbitrary hertz rate as far as the speed. And I just think maybe that could be a little less. And if you see here how the note kind of starts wiggling and bending after this point. So the last thing to this sound is it's mono at this point. So that's my vector scope. It's showing the stereo width of the sound. So the last thing I'm going to do here is go and do the same thing with the LFO, except on the panning. And so as you can hear here, each of the voices is getting panned starting, I think, to the right. Yeah, if you have headphones on, you'll be able to tell. So the thing I'm going to do here, again, is just go in here, add some amount, and then change the speed. You don't want to get carried away with this. Actually, you might. That kind of sounds cool too. So you can kind of do whatever you want here. With anything like tutorial-wise, always just use what I'm saying as a jumping off point. It's like the Patty's egg of speech, I'm just trying to tell you something you could do. You don't have to do it. Do whatever you want. And yeah, I'll say that's done. Let's see how close this is to what I ended up, or what I originally made here. Yeah, I don't know why. I kind of like the original better. This one might be more fun. But yeah, so that's how I got this sound. Yeah, so I made this sound working on stuff for a Dariacore Hyperpop color-based sample pack that I'm going to be coming out with pretty soon. So thank you for watching. Keep an eye out for that, and I will see you in the next one.